Welcome to this special edition of Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Stu Myrick here. I am about to bring you to the media conference call for this Friday's Ring of Honor Final Battle. It happens Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And as a twist, you can only get it on Ring of Honor's Honor Club, their streaming service. No Bleacher Report, no YouTube. You have to subscribe to Honor Club. It will be at the Curtis Culwell Center in Garland, up in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I do plan on attending as well. And so, as is custom for all AEW and Ring of Honor pay-per-views, the media gets to hear from the Ring of Honor as well as AEW CEO and General Manager Tony Khan. I suspect although we will hear some stuff about the card, we will hear all sorts of news about both Ring of Honor and AEW. As is customary, this should last around an hour, and then I'll be back at the end to give you some of my thoughts and run down the card as it looks now. But for now, I will send you to the media conference call with Ring of Honor CEO and General Manager Tony Khan.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here to talk about ROH Final Battle. I'm really excited about this event. It means a lot to so many of us for a number of reasons, and there's a lot of things to get excited about this year with Final Battle, and I'm excited to talk to you all about them. And if you do have two-parted questions, three-parted questions, whatever they are, I'll do my best, but try to get through everyone's questions, and hopefully everyone gets a chance to talk. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Tony. So we're going to start things off with Chris Mueller with Bleacher Report, followed by John Alba with Fight.
Hey, Tony. So with MJF and Adam Cole both being injured or banged up right now, and the ROH tag titles not having appeared on ROH for quite a while, has there been consideration of maybe vacating the titles so you could potentially put them on another tag team and have them featured on ROH a little more often?
It's definitely something to look at some point. I know that it was something that MJF said was important to him and Cole, was to try and maintain the belts for when Cole gets back. Obviously, it's been a long road to recovery from a bad injury, but we're all excited about having Adam Cole back in AEW as soon as he can come back, and they are a great tag team for any company, and certainly have been a huge part of AEW this year and a big success for us. So with Adam Cole and MJF being champions, I think certainly that is something to consider.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Next up is John Alba with Fight, followed by Sean Ross Sapp with Fightful.
Hey, Tony. Great to chat with you. Hope everything's going well with you. I got a question about distribution for you in Ring of Honor. It's been almost 2 years now since you purchased Ring of Honor. Where do things currently stand with your general business dealings with Warner Brothers Discovery, and does Warner Brothers Discovery view Ring of Honor as a viable property to maybe bundle in any potential deal with Ring of Honor and AEW?
Well, it's a great question. We've had really good talks with Warner Brothers Discovery. I had a great visit with them today, and we've got a really exciting relationship that has grown a lot over the years, and it has expanded for AEW. Ring of Honor is still really a third party in the relationship, and is a company that's putting on really exciting wrestling, and it's, I think, peripheral to the conversation right now, but it offers a lot of value to AEW and to media companies. There's a lot of interest in ROH and some of the most exciting wrestling and some of the most exciting stories and some of the best events in ROH's history are happening now. And it's really awesome that ROH has these options, and also it's very complimentary for myself and my family and our business interests that, the ROH media rights and the massive library and IP are there and accessible to us as we pursue new media rights for AEW in 2024. And we also have, the additional value of the ROH library with the AEW library that's continued to grow. Almost 220 episodes of Wednesday Night Dynamite alone, and well over 100 episodes of Friday Night Rampage. And it's been an exciting half year on AEW Collision, and had a great show this past week, and I think several weeks in a row, great episodes of Collision, in particular since the Continental Classic kicked on. And Dynamite, we've had some great shows recently also, especially since the Continental Classic got going. And it's been a banner year for AEW on pay-per-view, and our pay-per-view library has continued to grow with more events and great history going back to 2019. So the library is a big part of the AEW media rights, but having the complementary value of the Ring of Honor library that I purchased with the company for what I believe is a very good value in 2022. It's a very valuable asset to position in the marketplace, along with the AEW streaming library and the ability to create new events in the future from AEW and Ring of Honor, and continue great traditions like Final Battle this Friday. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Next up is Sean Ross Sapp with Fightful, followed by Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy.
Hey, Tony, to kind of stay on the ROH TV rights talk, there were rumors that before CW got involved with other wrestling companies, that they had actually been interested in possibly bringing ROH onto their side of things. Is that accurate? And sort of how do you weigh that type of situation? Because I know you have basically a huge bundle of availabilities coming up over the next year. Is that something that you prefer to shop all together or individually, or do you have a preference?
Well, starting there with the last part of the question, I would say that it is of value for us that we have this big library and additional media rights, in addition to the 5 hours of weekly television and the great shows with Wednesday Night Dynamite and AEW Rampage and AEW Collision. And having that along with our big pay-per-view shows and our library, and then complementing that with ROH, the new events, which we've had some of the best events ROH has ever had have been in the last couple of years in the time we've owned the company. And the ability to go back and look at some of the greatest wrestlers in the world. A lot of them are in AEW now, and some of them wrestle in other companies all over the world. And great to be able to look back at that library of events. But definitely, I think that is a value add for both AEW and Ring of Honor to be aligned with media rights that are coming up for AEW in 2024. It's going to be a very exciting time for AEW, and it's great to have ROH there as a strategic value. And then as far as the TV rights, we've had a lot of interested parties. I've been, for the reasons we just talked about, the aforementioned parts that we just discussed, it's definitely something I've been holding on to and haven't had a lot of detailed conversations. I think CW's great network, and we did have a visit. Dennis visited us at the Forum last year, and it was great. And I have a lot of respect for Dennis Miller and the CW folks. And I think the timing for us wasn't necessarily right, but I think there was a lot of great interested people in the marketplace in both AEW and ROH. And I think for 2024, it'll be really exciting time for pro wrestling, and ROH, I think, added good value going forward in this exciting opportunity for AEW and ROH. And it's also been great to keep ROH thriving, and it's proven that it's adding a lot of value to the wrestling ecosystem. There's great matches that have happened, things that are really important and wouldn't have been possible without the purchase of ROH. First and foremost, in my mind, would be the trilogy between FTR and the Briscoes last year across the three major ROH events we've held, from Supercard of Honor 22 in Dallas here in this area, and to, of course, Death Before Dishonor in Massachusetts, and then coming back to the Dallas Metroplex for a final battle last year for the third and final match, the dog collar match after the first match in Dallas had been so great, and the 2 out of 3 falls match at Depth Before Dishonor in Massachusetts I thought was off the charts. And then, arguably the greatest of the trilogy was here in Dallas, the final battle. And I've seen people question why the event, with the significance of keeping the event around Dallas. That's a lot of the significance around the event. And I can certainly elaborate on that more. And when you have great things we've been able to do with ROH that wouldn't have been possible, including FTR versus the Briscoes, which, wouldn't have been possible otherwise. And things we've done, like what I'm so excited to talk more about on this call, such as the AEW Women's World Championship match with Athena versus Billy Starks, where Athena has been on this dominant run, tearing through opponents for a year. And she's had some incredible matches on ROH TV and on pay-per-view and reached new heights as a champion. She's been from every step of the way in this new ROH over the past year. Athena has been there. And then by her side recently, she had this 18-year-old wrestling genius that she took under her wing to some extent, but also kept at a distance. And the way that the two of them connected and the relationship between them that formed, and then the conflict that has arisen, and the way that Lexi Nair is both a host of ROH and a minion, in Athena's words, I think has added a lot to the story. It's just been really fun to have that story play out, and we've been able to give it time and attention. I've been able to sit with the three of them every single week and focus on it in a way that could be potentially challenging in AEW, potentially to develop an 18-year-old wrestler like Billy Starks, who is so far along, especially when you consider her incredibly young age and her progress at 18 and how far she's come to be wrestling in this huge main event world championship match. It's a really big deal, and I think ROH made it possible along with the hard work of Billy Starks and Athena, and to some extent Lexi Nair and everyone involved. So yeah, I think it's been great for many reasons, and I really enjoyed it, as you can tell, on a wrestling level. But I also think there's a lot of strategic value in it, and really excited about Final Battle this week, but definitely have been cautious about going too far with some of the interest we've had in the product from people that have visited us since I bought ROH, and because I really value the relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery. It's been great for us, and I think it's a big opportunity for AEW coming up in 2024, and ROH can be a big part of that. And the ROH purchase has been a big part of the success of AEW. When you look at having the footage and all of the unopposed trademarks and everything we acquired just regarding All In, and what a massive success All In has been, the inaugural event and the historic success for AEW of the inaugural All In at Wembley Stadium, and now having All In again, and the huge advance that proves we were right to go back, and this is going to be a massive event consistently for AEW, and a home run for the fans in London, getting the biggest wrestling event in Europe in their market, and having it really be something that I think was enhanced by the ROH purchase, and having that footage and being able to recall the pre-AEW inaugural All In that really foreshadowed a lot of what was to come. And that would not have been possible without ROH. So I do think it'll be very, very cool to have the two complementary products in the market at the same time. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Next up is Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy, followed by Jason Powell of ProWrestling.net.
Hi, Tony. I am so glad that you brought up Athena and Billy Starks, because that is exactly the question that I wanted to ask you about. So Athena won the ROH Women's Championship last year at Final Battle. And honestly, she's put the ROH Women's division on the map this year, becoming perhaps the greatest ROH Women's World Champion of all time. While she's been on her incredible winning streak, Billie Starkz has also been amassing one of her own. She has 9 straight wins in singles matches, but her last defeat came at the hands of Athena herself and the Owen Hart Cup quarterfinals at Forbidden Door. I'd like to sort of pick your brain a little bit and see how this match came together, what the involvement was. Did you know back at Forbidden Door that this is what you wanted? Did you know all the way back at Final Battle last year? Can you talk a little bit about the process of this storyline coming together, especially as all 3 members of it have been consistently knocking it out of the park?
Yeah, it's been a tremendous process, and I really like working with Athena and Billie Starkz and Lexi Nair. And I visited with Athena and Billie every single week since Forbidden Door. And the way this has all come together, it's been tremendous. And it's really great working with 2 amazing professionals. You sometimes forget how young Billie is because she's very mature past her age and has great ideas and input. And Athena is one of the best wrestlers in the world and doing, I think, the best work of her career to this point right now in the moment as we speak. And it's really great collaborating with them. And I think I've been able to add ideas and help put things in perspective and do some great storytelling on the ROH TV with them. And Lexi has added so much to the story and become an indispensable part. And that's why I felt she had to be the special guest ring announcer for this match, as she will be the special guest ring announcer for the Athena versus Billie Starkz ROH Women's World Championship match at Final Battle this Friday. And the way things have come together, it's really, they had so much chemistry and some fun ideas at the start, really got people talking. And I remember on a Saturday going down to the ring very early in the day, well ahead of the live show or the ROH taping, well ahead of the live collision that day. And it was one of the very early collisions. Of course, Collision, you mentioned Forbidden Door, and that was right around the time that show started, was around Forbidden Door. And I think it's been very additive to the AEW pay-per-view product, but also I have really enjoyed being able to work with the different people on ROH on the Saturdays every week. And I think it's been good for that crew and some of the great veteran wrestlers that are on Collision to work together. And certainly one of the great veteran wrestlers every Saturday there has been Athena. And I really have enjoyed working with the 2 of them. And it was early on, I went down to the ring and had said, I think this is really getting a lot of steam. And I think we should stay with this, and we can really make this something very special. And I, had some ideas, and they've had some great ideas, and it's come together every week. And it's been a great collaboration, and everybody involved, Athena and Billie and myself and Lexi as well, have put great things into it every week. And, since the summer, we've been having a lot of fun with it, and we're excited for Final Battle, and it'll be something really special. I think Athena and Billie really deserve this spotlight, and it'll be a great main event match for the ROH Women's World Championship, Athena versus Billie Starkz on Friday night.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks, Amy. Next up, Jason Powell with ProWrestling.net, followed by Samantha Shipman of the Daily DDT.
Yeah, hey, Tony, you previously said that you don't view Ring of Honor as a developmental brand, and you pointed to the brand's champions. With Eddie Kingston giving up the ROH title to create the Triple Crown title, we've also had Samoa Joe forfeit the TV title. The Young Bucks and Hangman Page lost the 6-man titles. It just makes me wonder, has anything changed in terms of what your vision is for Ring of Honor?
Well, I think, no, it hasn't. And I think we'll have a really consistent and sustainable company that we've been able to build that has great shows and has put a lot of great matches into the wrestling ecosystem that I was very excited to revive because it has a great history and had a lot of value that it could add to my own portfolio personally, but also to the world. And I think what we're seeing here with this event, and you look at some of the matches that I don't think necessarily with the 5 hours of AEW TV, that as far as having every week, the consistency there, I don't know if it would have been possible to develop those stories. And certainly for some of the young wrestlers, I think it's been excellent, but we have a great veteran group and it's really about great wrestling and a prestige product. So Eddie Kingston put the ROH World Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship up as part of this huge Continental Classic. And now every time we go out for these matches, you see the 3 belts out there, including the ROH World Championship, along with that New Japan Strong Openweight Championship and the AEW Continental title in the bag. And I think it's really important to note that whoever comes out of the Continental Classic, when you look at this incredible field with 12 wrestlers, any of them would be a great champion. They're all very established stars. And the way the tournament's shaking up and the exciting leaderboard for the tournament in the Gold League and Blue League respectively, I think it's something to watch for, that there's going to be a great world champion coming out of this for ROH at this point, no matter who wins the Continental Classic. And that'll be somebody that'll defend all these championships across promotions and be a touring champion, tying together this wrestling universe. It's very exciting. We've had cross promotion working with New Japan Pro Wrestling in particular, but this offers more opportunities to have a touring champion like I grew up following. And I also think it's, with the champions, in addition to the Ring of Honor World Championship, you look at the Women's World Championship and it's held by such a great veteran. And we have that incredible main event to look forward to with Athena versus Billy Starks. And it's a great example of where I think a young wrestler with tons of upside has been the beneficiary of working with such a incredibly talented and respected veteran like Athena. And I think we have some great champions in the company right now. There's also some great young wrestlers, and it's a great blend. And without having all the necessary elements of other televised wrestling shows, by having the streaming product we have right now, also we're not as locked into specific format times, so people can have longer matches, or in some cases, if they're not ready to have longer matches, shorter matches, and not be thinking about commercial breaks or certain aspects of it. But there are other aspects that it's great for the people to learn working on television, working in the same arenas with the same production staff, and there's a lot to be said for it for the young wrestlers, but it's also a great group of top veterans and a prestigious wrestling product with prestigious championships.
Thanks so much, Tony. Next up, we have Samantha Shipman with the Daily DDT, followed by Bill Pritchard with WrestleZone.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
I have a question for you. I guess Athena is the woman of the hour here. And I would agree with, I believe what Amy said, that Athena has been probably just, I think, the best champion in the world, the best women's champion in the world. But what we've seen with Athena is she has defended her title completely in ROH, where we've seen our other ROH champions defend it in AEW. And is there a specific reason why she only defended her title in ROH? And then regardless of who wins on Friday, can we see the champion defending their title in AEW, or are they going to be strictly on Honor Club?
Well, I'm certainly open to Athena appearing in AEW and other places. I think it's really great to have somebody who's a great ambassador for a company like Athena. One thing that's been really consistent and great about ROH is Athena has been very much a part of that show and focused on that show. And I think her work has been one of the strongest things about the ROH show. So, I think if Athena, is focused on ROH and focused on AEW, that's great too. I think with Billy Starks, you have somebody that is a great challenger that would be a great champion for ROH, but also somebody people would be excited to see in AEW. So I think both Billy and Athena would offer something to any wrestling company they're competing with. But one thing, looking backwards at this past year and reflecting on 2023, I believe Athena's work on ROH was quite possibly, likely, the strongest, most consistent thing throughout the year. And it's been really nice having that anchor. And I do think Billy Starks now has been somebody that's been on the rise, as we mentioned, had been on a 9-match winning streak. Will have a chance to continue an unbeaten run and become champion. And it's a match with very high stakes for ROH. I think whoever wins would be great to wrestle in any promotion, including AEW, and also would be a major focus of the ROH shows going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Next up, Bill Pritchard with WrestleZone, followed by a write-in from Steve Fall with 10 Count.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I wanted to ask about Samoa Joe's title reign, and if there was ever a discussion to keep the title on him. I know you're having the finals of this tournament at Final Battle, the Survival of the Fittest finals. But was there ever any discussion to maybe have him lose it in a match rather than go the tournament route, or just keeping him as a double champion in general, since it's something we've seen in other areas of AEW?
Yeah, I do think that's something to consider. The World TV title had been such a consistent focus on the TV show, and Samoa Joe had defended it many times. And given the nature of a TV title, I think it will be good to have a champion that can participate consistently on the ROH TV and be a fighting champion. That Samoa Joe has been such an incredible champion. He was the longest reigning champion of all time and made an incredible list of defenses. And when you look back at all the great wrestlers Samoa Joe fought for the ROH TV title in the over 1 year reign, I think it was incredible. And I also think now with AEW, Samoa Joe has become a huge focus of the AEW promotional considerations. And definitely for Samoa Joe, I do think it made a lot of sense for him to be a focus because he's such a huge star for AEW. There's a lot of commercial benefits to having a huge star of Samoa Joe's stature on AEW television every week. And it felt like as big as Samoa Joe's presence on AEW has become, it become challenging for him to defend the championship. So relinquishing it at that point, I think did make some sense. And to him personally, it made sense because he had accomplished everything he had ever set out to. He became the longest reigning, most dominant champion and set his sights on a new goal, which is for AEW World's End, which is coming up soon in a matter of weeks. And we know it'll be MJF versus Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship. They had an awesome match earlier this year in New York at AEW Grand Slam, and I'm excited for the rematch at World's End. Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. I have a write-in here from Steve Fall with 10 Count. Tony, how'd you create the card for Final Battle? Do you write down the matches you'd like to see and then work backwards on ROH TV?
Well, it's a great question. For the most part, it was thinking about the end game, certainly with it's different matches have different stories and different ways we got here. Certainly with Athena and Billy Starks, it's been a long process to get to this match, and a lot of storytelling and really hard work by both Athena and Billy and the great team on the production, and Lexi Nair and everybody that helped get this to a huge world championship main event match coming up this Friday, Athena versus Billy Starks. Something that I had wanted to see, and I couldn't put my finger on what quite the right thing was, but it meant a lot to me. And doing the show in Dallas this week means a lot. Is the fight. It normally would call it a fight without honor, but it doesn't really feel right here, because we have a lot of honor, and I think we are trying to honor Jay Briscoe, Jamin, and he is somebody I actually first met in Dallas at ROH when I had my first show after acquiring the company at Supercard of Honor in 2022. And speaking of Samoa Joe, we just talked about him. That was where he arrived. And for the Briscoes, that was the first time I ever met the Briscoes, first time I ever met Jamin or Mark, and got to know them and work with them, and had such a great experience. And of course, there was so much great to come with them in ROH that year across the great trilogy with FTR. And I think FTR and the Briscoes are going to be linked forever together. And I've said that to so many people, and I really believe it. And I thought this match would be something really cool for the fans in Dallas. A lot of them were at the dog collar match last year. And in particular, for the people involved, there's a lot of people involved that really care about Jay Briscoe, and to have FTR team up with Mark Briscoe, I thought that would be something special. And looking back at things we had teased on the major ROH events and things I've always wanted to do, we've certainly alluded to FTR versus the BCC. And, as I've often said, about, as an example, the Sopranos, they ended up never playing the Russian in the Woods card that they had established for themselves. But, I've had this FTR versus BCC match also, that two groups, FTR, the tag team, and the BCC, they've bumped up against each other a lot. There have been interactions that recently on Collision, we've seen them aligned in many ways, and we can see they respect each other, and I think that's been evident for a long time. And Bryan Danielson has a really long history with the Briscoes, and Bryan Danielson and Jay Briscoe wrestled 20 years ago at this event at Final Battle 2003. So to have Final Battle be the 1-year anniversary of the dog collar match, and then learning it's the 20-year anniversary of Danielson versus Jay Briscoe, it just felt right. And I wanted to do something special, but when you care about somebody and when you want to do something to honor them, like I wanted to do something for Jay Briscoe, it can be hard, and it can be hard to focus. And then it just kind of came to me, and I went to the BCC individually and talked to the different guys in the BCC about the match. And I talked to Bryan Danielson, and it made so much sense to him. And he pointed out a lot of great information about his history with the Briscoes and with Jay Briscoe specifically that I thought added a lot to the match. And then with John Moxley, I'd asked him, he had limited involvement ever before in ROH, but for this, he really was very cool about it and wanted to be involved in it, and has a lot of respect for Jay Briscoe, and had a great match to start the Continental Classic first episode with Mark Briscoe. And I think that will be very special. And then Claudio has so much history with the Briscoe family. And we saw earlier this year, Mark and Claudio were set to go one-on-one, and Mark had a knee injury So it's fitting now at the 1-year anniversary of that great Final Battle show, where I know Claudio also had a chance to catch up with Jay Briscoe at that show. We talked about it a bit because, of course, Claudio won back the Ring of Honor World Championship that he's fighting for now in the Continental Classic to regain for a third time in even grander fashion as part of this new Triple Crown with the AEW Continental Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. And to have Claudio as part of the Continental Classic, but also fighting through this match, shows how much Jay Briscoe meant to him and to so many of us. And when you've got the Continental Classic competitors stepping outside the competition, taking on this kind of a challenge, shows how important it is. And you have some of the biggest stars in wrestling coming to ROH because this is important, and this is where so many of us saw Jay Briscoe for the last time, including myself. And I saw him that day in the arena in Dallas, and then a lot of people back at the hotel afterwards. And I always enjoyed visiting with Jay Briscoe outside of work, and I've gotten to know Mark outside more now too. Mark comes out and visits us more too. Has been more sociable this last year, kind of taking Jay's spot there. And I think for a lot of people that they'll look back at Final Battle in Dallas last year as an important memory. So it's full circle to bring it back here to his last match in ROH, and what a classic final match, that dog collar match, but also a lot of personal memories for a lot of us. And for Dallas being the first place I met him, and then the last place I saw him, and the first and last place I ever worked with him, it means a lot. So when couldn't come up with a perfect idea right away, but when I did have a good idea, I think we ran with it for supporting Jay Briscoe, and that's what we're trying to do for the Pugh family, because they're awesome people, and we love them very much. And then in addition to that, that big 6-man fight and the ROH Women's World Championship match that we talked about, there were other matches on the card who took a different road to get here. We talked a lot about Samoa Joe. I was looking back at history of ROH, and survival of the fittest is a staple, and staying true to ROH history, I thought it would be very cool to have a survival of the fittest match, get a lot of the exciting stars involved, and we have a lot of big names in the survival of the fittest, and already with 5 of the competitors locked in, and some really exciting people that are very popular. And then we had some other wrestlers that have been competing in Japan, and I wanted to see how they fared, and frankly, if they came back healthy, that it looks like they're going to be back. So I'm optimistic being able to even add a little bit more to the card now with our wrestlers returning from Japan. And of course, there's also been some Lucha Libre presence on this card in the past, and we have some of that in the survival of the fittest, but I might be making an addition there as well. And when we talk about story, of course, I was really enjoyed working with Ethan Page and Tony Nese, who brought a lot of great ideas for their program, and they're 2 people that really wanted to wrestle each other and have built some great interest, and I really enjoyed working with them. I think there was some good buzz for the contract signing segment we did this past week for that I Quit match, and this Thursday on the Go Home ROH, which we'll look forward to kind of turning our focus to after Wednesday Night Dynamite tomorrow night. We'll hear from everybody on that Go Home show before Final Battle, and I think there's some really exciting stuff on the card, and it all took different journeys to get here. Some of them a long plan, and some of them by necessity, circumstances that arose. And no circumstance more tragic than what the fact that Jay Briscoe's not here with us at Final Battle this year. But I think the card is going to be a really great show on Friday, and I'm excited for the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I have another write-in here with Kimmy Sokol from the Pop Break, who will be followed by John Pollock with Post Wrestling. Kimmy writes, how would you evaluate Ethan Page's work so far in Ring of Honor?
I think Ethan Page is doing a tremendous job, and he's been very additive. He also had a great match with Kenny Omega on Collision in AEW, and I think getting some ring time under his belt, he wanted to get out and have matches. And if there was ever a week where he wasn't, having a match in AEW, he said, "I want to please book me in ROH anytime. I really want to do it." And he had some great matches and became a staple of the program. And then this involvement with Tony Nese, I think, has been great for both of them and has shown the value they add to any wrestling program, and should be a great match, and has become a heated rivalry. And you can look back and see how it got here on the ROH TV. And I think it's been two great wrestlers having an opportunity to showcase themselves when it's sometimes jam-packed with big names on AEW TV. They're great names too, Tony and Ethan. And I think, you asked about Ethan. Ethan's somebody that really double-dipped. He had the great contract signing this past week on Thursday, and then on Saturday had an awesome match with Kenny Omega on Collision that did very well and did a good rating, and he did very well in the match, and was tremendous for both men. And I think meant a lot to Kenny and Ethan to have a big match in their home country, Canada. And I think now he'll have a big match Friday at Final Battle. So he's doing great stuff. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Tony. Next up, we have John Pollock with Post Wrestling, followed by Paul Berry from Newsweek.
Hey, Tony, the last time we got an updated figure from you for Honor Club was around 15,000 subscribers. I was just curious if there's an updated figure you can share. And are you viewing this experiment on Friday as such, of seeing how it does as an exclusive to Honor Club, or could we see it go back to pay-per-view in the future? How are you viewing that decision?
Well, it's a great question. I think this has been tremendously successful in terms of gaining new subscribers. So at least as an experiment, I think it's been a big win. We have a pay-per-view coming up with World's End that we're very focused on. Expanding the AEW pay-per-view calendar has worked really well. There's a lot of interest in World's End. The tickets are moving very well. And the Continental Classic has been some of the best AEW TV ever. And we've had some of our best matches, and people have really enjoyed the shows. And if you haven't seen Dynamite, Collision, or Rampage this past week with Danielson versus Garcia, the AEW shows have been featuring great matches from the Continental Classic. And I think with the final coming, as we've been saying consistently across the shows, coming at World's End, I think there'll be a lot of interest in that. And I talked before about Samoa Joe. Of course, this is the ROH Final Battle call, and we talked about Samoa Joe because he's the greatest TV champion ever, and now the TV championship is up for grabs in the survival of the fittest match. And I think Samoa Joe versus MJF, as I mentioned, is a match that I'm very excited to see, and I think a lot of fans are excited for the rematch after they had a great main event at Grand Slam Dynamite. And coming up on World's End, I think it makes sense for the timing of this event, at least as it stands right now. But we've had great returns on ROH pay-per-views. There's definitely a market for it. When we put on these events, we've seen big box office return, and it's been a great part of the investment. I talked about the investment I made in ROH, and when you look at the revenues off the pay-per-views, they're the biggest revenues ROH has ever done on pay-per-view. And if we do decide to go back to or stay with that model long term, it'll be because we've had a lot of success as promoters with AEW and now ROH at selling pay-per-views. And now this is putting some folks on the watchroh.com, the Honor Club product. We've been able to drive more subscribers in recent weeks and expect to have another big week for subscribers here with Final Battle, as we've seen the increase on the run up to the event, and should be really cool stuff for us going forward. And really also, we have a lot of options for how we want to disseminate the content going forward for streaming versus pay-per-view or whatever combination. But this has definitely been a successful experiment to grow watchroh.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Next up, we have Paul Berry with Newsweek, followed by Derek Reed with Keystone Broadcasting.
Hey, Tony. Great seeing you on Honor Club this week for the contract signing. I hope you're keeping Mark Sterling's card in a very safe place. Obviously, MJF has a lot on his plate between Samoa Joe and Wardlow and the Devil, Adam Cole's injury, Roddy yelling at everyone, walking red carpets with John Cena. But as the scumbag of the people, when will we see the tag team champions follow your lead and appear on Honor Club?
That's a great question, and I think it's something to consider here with MJF and Adam Cole and the tag team championship. It was actually the very first question I answered to some extent. Was reflecting on how important MJF and Adam Cole have been to AEW this year, but also how they would raise the profile of any company, including ROH, where they're the champions. But certainly with Adam Cole's injury, they have not been able to make regular appearances. So that is something to consider. Absolutely. But thank you. And I did to follow up though, Danny, I did keep Mark Sterling's card in a very safe place. And you never know when you're going to need a Mark Sterling. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. Next up, Derek Reed with Keystone Broadcasting, followed by a write-in from Joey Galizia with Wrestle Purists.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I was kind of wondering about the Pure division, with the Triple Crown Championship being created. It seems like the champion's going to be working in 3 different spots, really. And is that going to shine more of a light on the Pure division? Are you looking to maybe reinstitute the rankings, but in the ROH Pure category?
Well, it's a great question. I think that the Pure Championship has gained a lot of profile. And one reason for that, well, there's multiple reasons. I think we've had great champions. And 3 people who helped raise the profile of the title, I believe, are Daniel Garcia, who was a champion at one point, and somebody who I have a lot of respect for. And another person I have a lot of respect for is the current champion, Wheeler Yuta, who is a multiple-time champion and the only multiple-time champion, and is not necessarily the most honorable wrestler, and certainly not the most popular member of his own faction, the Blackpool Combat Club. Definitely not the most popular guy in the BCC, but he is a great champion. And I think having 2 great young wrestlers fighting for the title like Yuta and Garcia has added so much to the championship. And also we've seen the profile raised, in my opinion, by Katsuyori Shibata, who I feel has been wrestling's greatest champion. And anytime he defended the ROH Pure Championship, I believed in the stakes and the importance and the honor of the championship. And when it comes to the Pure title, I think Katsuyori Shibata has been really important to raising the profile of the championship. And now Wheeler Yuta has very big shoes to fill, and Wheeler Yuta is a great wrestler, and he's very capable of doing that, I think, when he wants to do it. So there's a lot of exciting stuff to keep an eye on when it comes to the ROH Pure Championship. It was a blow struck against honor when Wheeler Yuta took advantage of Katsuyori Shibata. And, I do think Katsuyori Shibata will be back, and I'm very optimistic about him making a return, thankfully, and thanks to Hook showing up in time to help him. And, Katsuyori Shibata, when he returns, will certainly be looking for payback. And I think that's helped the championship. And certainly when you have somebody that's been through what Shibata's been through and has been, I think, through some of the most challenging circumstances to mount a comeback in pro wrestling history, and done it with flying colors, and then became a great champion against all odds and all expectations. That's a great story. So that's something to keep an eye on also. And I have a lot of respect for all three of those men, Garcia, Yuta, and Shibata. And I think all of them add a lot to any wrestling promotion, and certainly have added a lot to ROH as the pure champion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I have a write-in here from Joey Galizia of Wrestle Purists. Tony, New Japan Pro Wrestling just announced that they're launching a global championship. So based on your relationship with New Japan, do you foresee that title being defended in Ring of Honor or AEW? And would that affect any type of plans with the Triple Crown Championship?
I certainly would be open to having any of New Japan's great champions defending the title in AEW or ROH or any promotion. I think that's great. And New Japan Pro Wrestling has a really, really exciting roster. They have some of the best wrestlers, and we have a really exciting opportunity going forward to present what I believe is a unified champion across the Triple Crown, the 3 titles, the AEW Continental Championship, along with the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship and the ROH World Championship. So with any New Japan champion, we would certainly welcome them to compete as part of the same spirit of competition and the partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we're excited about that news, and certainly that creates another exciting opportunity in the world of pro wrestling with the great roster that New Japan offers.
Thank you, Tony. And we're going to close here today on a question from Ella J with SE Scoops. Any news on who the 6th competitor will be in the TV title Survival of the Fittest match?
Well, stay tuned to ROH. We've got a great 5 competitors. Of course, there'll be 6 in the Survival of the Fittest, and we've been following it here, and we'll be announcing more and keeping people engaged on the run-up to the event. And there's still a little bit more to go, a few more days and one more TV. So, but I'm excited about the Survival of the Fittest match, and it's a great question, Ella, and I really appreciate it.
And there you have it. As expected, probably went just a shade under an hour, that's different. The talk did seem to focus mostly on Final Battle and on Ring of Honor in general, although there was quite a bit of crossover with AEW talk and questions about TV rights and Ring of Honor distribution and that type of thing. A couple things that I made a note of right off the top. Tony Khan was asked about the Ring of Honor tag team titles, which currently held by MJF and Adam Cole. Adam Cole can't wrestle due to injury right now, and so he was asked if he considered vacating those tag titles so they could be put on a tag team that could defend them on Ring of Honor television. He has considered it. It sounds like it's not. It's something that's not off the table. So the thought is in there. We'll see if he pulls the trigger on it. There was a lot of talk on Athena versus Billy Starks for the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. Quite a bit of talk. That's been a program. Quite honestly, it's lasted the last few months actually, with this whole minion in training thing that Athena's had with Billy Starks and Lexi Nair, and now Billy Starks tired of being a minion. She wants to be a champion, so there you go. One little tidbit that we did learn. So this Friday, the technically it's a fight without honor, but it's a fight in honor of Jay Briscoe. Tony Khan did mention that 20 years ago at Final Battle 2003, Bryan Danielson faced Jay Briscoe. So now Danielson's part of this, fight, And so made it interesting. It'll be certainly there'll be a lot of emotion with that match. And I think it will be one of those they're going to try to live up to the trilogy between FTR and the Briscoes. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting card. Let me run down the card. As I said, right now, there are only 5 matches on the card. And now I suspect that we will hear more matches announced on AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. Probably fill that out Ring of Honor Television or ROH Honor Club on Thursday. So I suspect we'll hear more matches. But the card as it stands right now, as I mentioned, Athena defending the ROH Women's World title against Billy Starks. Again, we've seen that come to a head. A survival of the fittest 6-way elimination match. Now, this is something goes back to the old days of ROH when they would do survival of the fittest. They had tournaments. It'd be multiple cities. In fact, it was 2019. They did it all here in Texas. Hit Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. It'll be a 6-way elimination match. The winner will be crowned the new Ring of Honor World Television Champion. That title vacated by Samoa Joe because he wants to go after the AEW World title. Right now, there are 5 in that match. Dalton Castle, who is a former Ring of Honor World Television Champion. Commander Lee Moriarty, Lee Johnson, and Kyle Fletcher. A 6th individual will be announced. I suspect that will be on Ring of Honor Television on Honor Club on Thursday. 6-way elimination match. The survival of the fittest. The winner will become the new ROH World Television Champion. In an I Quit match, All Ego Ethan Page taking on Tony Nese. You know, Tony Nese will probably have Mark Sterling lurking around with him. That'll be an interesting match. Ethan Page is one of the best competitors out there, and this goes, and I'm taking in his tenure and Impact when he was tag champs with Josh Alexander, and of course his current run in Ring of Honor and AEW. He's one of those guys that just he doesn't have much wasted movement, and that's going to be a real interesting match. A match that is, well, I've got a personal connection to because I have called matches with these 2 men. I'm trying to think. I may have called a match or 2 when they were the Pretty Boy Killers. Keith Lee, Limitless Keith Lee, facing his former Pretty Boy Killer tag team partner, Shane Taylor. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be one of those matches. I have great respect for both men. I consider both men friends. I wonder which way that one will go. I also wonder if another individual, someone I know, have worked with in the past, Jerome Daniels, J.D. Griffey, wonder if he'll be involved. We'll see. I think, if I'm not mistaken, J.D. is part of Shane Taylor Promotions, but he's also connected with Keith Lee because they all came up together on the independent scene up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as pretty much all over Texas. So that's going to be a big one. And then, as I mentioned, the Fight Without Honor, fight in honor of Jay. Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, and John Moxley taking on FTR, Dax and Cash, and Mark Briscoe. That's going to be, as I said, that's going to be an emotional match for a lot of reasons, not least of which, of course, Jay Briscoe will be looking down on that match and probably smiling. So anyway, that's the card for Ring of Honor Final Battle this Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, make sure you get to the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland to see it live. If you are not, get it on Ring of Honor Honor Club. It is exclusive to Honor Club, so you have to subscribe to that. It's not on Bleacher Report, not on YouTube, not on any other service. Honor Club is how you will see this Friday's Ring of Honor Final Battle. That'll do it for this special edition of Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Stu Myrick, and I'll see you at the matches.